Hey everybody, so I just got out of the movie Megan, and I apologize for the lack of professionalism here, recording from my car. But as you can probably hear, it is pouring out and it's cold, and so here I am, and I want to, make sure I keep to that 5 minute window that I have set myself to record my reactions. And I'm kind of stalling because I don't have a whole lot to say about this movie that's positive. This movie is Megan. It's got Ronnie Chang in it, who is a funny dude, but not used necessarily for comedy in this movie. And some other people. I don't know who it is. I did watch the credits to try to remember who it is, but now that I'm here, I don't remember at all who was in it. But you know what? It doesn't matter because we'll probably never see these people again. Nothing against them or their performances. They were given absolute crap. This movie is pretty horrible. I did not have any expectations for it. I thought maybe it would be surprisingly good. There is a movie from the 80s called Deadly Friend, which I don't know if anyone besides me remembers it. But some dude who's a nerd, if I remember correctly, his friend gets killed, and so he uploads her consciousness into this robot, and then the robot ends up going haywire and goes after everyone who has wronged this kid. And there's some pretty gruesome kills, as far as 80s cheesy horror movie kills. But I saw it when I was 11 or 12 years old, 12, maybe 13. No, 11 or 12. So that's how old it is, because I'm not young. Anyway, I thought maybe this movie would end up catching like that, like it would end up being surprisingly fun and cool. God, it was not. Megan is weird and creepy, but not in a like. I'm not a fan of the Child's Play movies. I'm not a fan of Chucky, but that's a menacing, and even though it's cheesy, it's still like, okay, cool, I get it. This is just like the Polar Express level of, I'm feeling queasy at watching this, but I'm not really sure why, because it's almost real, but it's not. I guess I could have looked up whether this was all CGI. It looks like there's moments where they probably motion captured someone. But it's just, there are these weird sequences where there's like dance sequences with Megan, and she sings Titanium, which I think is Rihanna. Correct me if I'm wrong. My God, just the tone of this movie is all over the place. There's some horrific moments of, violence towards children and violence towards animals, but you don't really see anything. The one thing that this movie does rob the viewer of is the satisfaction of those good, gory, creative kills. Because the overall body count in this movie is 4 people and a dog. If you don't count the parents dying at the beginning of the movie, which, by the way, this whole movie, maybe I should have started there. Katie is a girl whose parents die in a car crash. She goes to live with her Aunt Gemma, and Gemma, of course, is not a good mother, or not ready to be a mother or a guardian or whatever. Then there's a weird sequence where she decides, oh, I'm going to make a robot. I thought that this was like something that was already in production, and they decided they were going to use Katie, and then it went wrong. But no, they kind of made this almost from scratch. The timeline of how this happens, because the girl who's, she talks about she's learning 4th grade math, which would put her about 9. So maybe she's anywhere between 8 and 10 years old. But she's lost her parents. I mean, a traumatic events. And then throughout the course of the movie, things continue to happen. And this girl should be absolutely, traumatized, right? For, say that again, but almost comatose. Like, how would anyone continue to respond with the things that she's seen and experienced? But this movie kind of writes all that off, and it feels like maybe it's going for some jokes, but not really, as the robot Megan is gaining sentience and talking about the inevitability of death, and this whole Tony Stark thing about how in Ultron, like, humans are destined to kill themselves. Oh, God, I don't. man. So, back to my point that I was originally trying to make is that in a lot of these horror movies, you at least have the satisfaction of some cool creative deaths. Even a movie like, I'm going to bring up, I don't know why I bring up this movie, Valentine, starring David Boreanaz. It was a really cheesy horror, slasher film, but at least it had some creative and cool deaths in it. This doesn't really have any of that. The robot is not very menacing. She's just kind of weird looking, and it's all very predictable. This feels like the horror movie that if you're 10 to 12 to 13 years old and you're just getting into horror movies and this is going to, begin your journey, it's a fine place to start, I guess. If you're a veteran of horror movies and you like to be scared, this is not it. This movie is not scary. It's not frightening. It's not even funny. If it were designed as a comedy and they were going to make the dance sequences or, whatever into something, and Megan would be dropping these cheesy one-liners all over the place, then that would be a different story. But this is a movie that never quite gets what it is exactly trying to do. So, oh my God, I'm looking at the time and I'm at 6.5 minutes, which is way too much time, I think, to spend on this movie. If you've seen it, cool. I hope you liked it. Maybe you didn't. If you haven't seen it, then don't. Right? Don't bother. There are other things you can do with whatever, an hour and a half or almost 2 hours of your life or whatever it is. It's really not worth it. So anyways, thank you very much. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate everyone who is watching. And I guess I'll see you at the next movie.